Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to watch this social emotional learning or SEL lesson. Today, we'll talk about identifying emotions, and that's really important for all of us throughout our whole lives. But it's especially important during COVID 19 because since COVID has happened, there's been a lot of changes. And some of the changes are good, and some of them have just made us think more about maybe we're experiencing different emotions. And so it's important that we're aware of how we're feeling so that we can then deal with it in a healthy way. So let's get started. Who has heard of an emoji? So raise your hand if you have. Emojis are pictures that send a message. Often we use emojis to share how we feel. So sometimes you might know that when people send text messages or they're writing an email, they might put an emoji in. And the emoji is a picture that stands for a word. So it could be a soccer ball, it could be a surfer, but it could also be a face that shows a feeling. Okay, like here are some examples. So now that we all know what emojis are, check in for a check in. Think about your favorite emoji. Here are a few examples, but it's certainly not all of them. So identify what is your favorite emoji and then say that out loud. Okay, now using the emojis, identify how you might be feeling. So I'll go through these emojis with you. You might be feeling happy or embarrassed or scared or nervous or goofy or surprised. You might feel quiet or annoyed. You might be feeling pretty cool, sad, tired. Oh, so tired. Excited. You might be bored, sick, frustrated, angry, funny, or proud. So there's several emotions here. So how might you be feeling? Go ahead and say that out loud. Okay, so now that you've thought about how you're feeling right now, today we will be talking about the importance of identifying emotions. And this falls under the social emotional learning competency of insight right here. And insight is the ability to know your emotions and how they affect your thoughts and your actions. And this is really important for how we feel about ourselves and also how we identify emotions in other people. So once we learn how to identify emotions in ourselves, then we can learn how to identify emotions in other people. And then we can be empathetic and care for people and help them. This has to do with the standard of identifying a wide range of emotions, and our learning target today is identifying emotions and how it affects our body. Our vocabulary is emotions, and that's a feeling that's paired with a response in our body and our minds. So, to put that into context a little bit, we might be feeling nervous, and so we might get those nervous butterflies in our stomach, or we might be worrying about things or thinking about things. So, that's how worry or feeling nervous might impact our minds. So, again, an emotion is a feeling that's paired with a response in our body, like the nervous butterflies, in our minds, thinking about maybe a worry. That's an example. So, it's important to know how you're feeling so that you can understand yourself, help manage yourself and your emotions, know how you're appearing to others, because sometimes we need to be aware of how we might be appearing to others so that we can be kind to others. We might need to manage our emotions so we know when we need a break or know when we need to ask for help. We also need to know our emotions so that we know when we're feeling great and we can celebrate that great time in our life. What are some other reasons why we might want to identify emotions? You can go ahead and say that out loud now. So, now that we know it's important to know how we're feeling, what are some ways that you can identify emotions? Well, some ways could be through what's called nonverbals, or that's something that happens with our body. Nonverbal would be something that we don't have to say, that we can identify emotions. So it could be body posture. If we're sitting up straight, we might be excited, but if we're slouched, maybe we're tired, we're sick, we're sad, we're frustrated. So our body posture says a lot about how we might be feeling. Our facial expression does as well. So, are we smiling? Are we frowning? Are our eyebrows up and excited? Or Are we in wonder, or are they furrowed? Are you thinking? Are you angry? Is your jaw clenched and tight? Is your, like, does your nose feel all crinkly? So those are some things that happen with our face that correlate with, that pair, I should say, with how we're feeling. Another thing that could happen is maybe our hands are clenched or they're open. Our stomach might feel nervous. Another way to identify how we're feeling is our voice, our tone, which is how, you might identify maybe if somebody's angry. So when we're angry, we might talk real firm, but our voice tone also, our voice volume can also share how we're feeling. So if we're at a soccer game, we might be yelling and so excited because our team just scored a goal. We might have a calm voice when we're relaxed, or if we're nervous, our voice might be kind of shaky. And that's okay. Remember, emotions are okay. It's just identifying those and then knowing what to do with them. Sometimes our breathing might be increased. So if we're excited or nervous or scared, we might breathe more shallow. And to help calm ourselves down, we can take a few deep breaths, and that'll help. What are some other ways that you can identify emotions? So I'll give you a second to think, and then I'll tell you one more way. Another way you can identify emotions is by having what's called an emotional vocabulary, which really means that you can name an emotion. So remember when we talked about emojis, and those are common ways to help us think how we're feeling. These are some other common, or using a feeling chart helps you identify common emotions. So we talked about these earlier. What are some other common emotions that might be on a feeling chart? And having a feeling chart is helpful because it helps you see a picture, because sometimes you're just not sure, but seeing the picture helps you identify maybe how you're feeling. Here are some other emoji or emotions that you might be feeling. These are kind of categorized, but it could be happy, sad, angry, or other feelings. So here's a bunch of happy feelings, some sad feelings, maybe some angry feelings, and then just kind of other miscellaneous feelings over here. So during COVID, you might feel a range of emotions. Maybe there's stress or fear or sadness or loneliness, or maybe you're really happy. Maybe you like the change. Maybe you enjoy being at home more often, and that's okay. Emotions are all okay, and it's really what we do with our emotions that matters. So, next, we're going to talk about a few ways that can help you with some emotions during COVID and all of the time. So we can cope with emotions by changing the way we think. And we can do this in like a four-step process. We want to know it, name it, feel it, and then breathe. So it's important to know your feelings and your emotions. So you want to know it. Look for signs. Look for those things that are going on in your body, the voice tone, your posture, your facial expressions. Identify if you feel like your chest or your shoulders getting tight or heavy. Look for signals in your body, so know it. The next step is name it. So use a feeling chart if you need to help name your feeling. The next is feel it. Remind yourself that it's okay to feel this way, but we need to manage how we respond in a healthy way. So, one way we can do that is by breathing, by taking in slow, deep breaths until we feel calm, especially if we're feeling one of those emotions that are really strong, like sadness or anger. And then we can put another strategy in place. But we can breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. By smell the roses, blow out the candles. So, when we have emotions, we want to know it, we want to name it, we want to feel it, and then we can breathe if we need to manage that emotion. And those are things that are really easy. Know it, name it, feel it, and breathe if you need to. Help manage that emotion. Take deep breaths. So obviously we're always breathing, but we can be really intentional about our breathing and take in those slow, deep breaths to kind of help us calm down. So now that we've learned how to identify emotions, what is one way that you can use to identify your emotions? You can say that out loud, you can think it, or you can say it to somebody at home. And I want to thank you all for your time today to take part in this social emotional learning lesson. And I'm going to leave you with this kind of chart to help you remember to know it, name it, feel it, and breathe. And then there's also a feeling chart here to help you identify how you might be feeling. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.